The Redmi 3, small, supposedly premium, packing decent internals with a large battery, and all at a very reasonable price. So, should you be interested in this? Should you consider enduring flash sales or reseller markups and import hassles for this? Well, let's find out. But before we do, if this is your first time here, or in case you just can't remember, my name's Ash, this is C4eTech, and you're watching my full review of the Xiaomi Redmi 3. Let's get started. While the build's been updated, the Redmi 3 still retains a lot of the traditional Xiaomi Redmi design cues. For example, the keys are in backlit, the power button and the volume rockers are still found to the right, we have a slot to the left, and here you can add either two SIM cards or a SIM and a micro SD card. The primary microphone and the micro USB port reside at the bottom. It's worth mentioning that the Redmi 3 has support for USB OTG. What's new here is that along with the 3.5mm headphone jack and the secondary noise cancelling microphone up top, we now have an IR blaster. So you can use your Redmi 3 to control a TV or an air conditioner and whatnot. We have metal to the back, and due to that design change, the 4100 mAh battery inside is not user replaceable. And yes, you heard me right, that's a mammoth 4100 mAh battery inside. In fact, I'm so excited about this battery that I'm gonna fast forward to the point where we talk about battery. The battery life on the Redmi 3 is insane. I get 2 days of solid usage. My usage pattern varies from moderate to intensive. I spent 6 days with this phone as my daily driver, and during this time, my usage went something like a couple of hours of calls, great cellular reception and call quality by the way, Wi-Fi and 3G on all day, a lot of push notifications for mails, social media, a couple of hours of music via Bluetooth, a pair of YouTube videos, and at least an hour of gaming. That is via a Nintendo DS emulator. Flawless performance and tremendous battery life. Do remember, screen on times that you're seeing are very subjective, and the fact that I was using my phone for intensive tasks like gaming mean my screen on times are much lower than what other reviewers might indicate. By the way, all this was on the default mode. The newer MIUI does not come with a performance mode, but rather comes with battery profiles. So using these battery profiles, you should be able to get even more out of this battery. Well, all this is great. There is one minor con that I feel needs to be pointed out. Due to the huge capacity of the battery, the Redmi 3 does take a few hours to charge. So back to the build. The Redmi 3 is 8.5mm thick and weighs in at about 145 grams. It feels nice in hand, solid and not really slippery. You can definitely use this phone single-handed. And while I'm not a huge fan of the pattern to the back, I don't really hate it either. At least it sets the Redmi 3 apart from a slew of cheap Chinese phones with similar designs. Overall, I feel Xiaomi's done a tremendous job with the build. Moving on, the Redmi 3 sports a 5-inch IPS LCD display with a 720p resolution, giving it a pixel density of 294 pixels per inch. This is quite a nice display. It's sharp enough, produces accurate colors, great contrast, offers very good viewing angles, but there are a couple of cons here. Number one, Xiaomi hasn't made any mention of protection for the display. Well, that's understandable given the price segment may be a cost-cutting measure, a necessary evil, meant to keep the prices low. The second one is the fact that the glass on top is very reflective. And add to it the average brightness of the panel, the Redmi 3 is not the most legible of devices outdoors. Underneath the hood, the Redmi 3 is powered by the Snapdragon 616 chip. Now that's 8 Cortex A53 cores with 4 clocked at 1.5 GHz each and another 4 clocked at 1.2 GHz each, coupled with an Adreno 405 GPU and 2 gigs of RAM. We also have 16 gigs of onboard storage. The performance here is quite good. Even with intensive tasks like gaming, the Adreno 405 GPU inside performed well. Well, yes, as the games got more intensive, there were more instances of frames being dropped, a little bit of lag here and there. The Redmi 3 still did manage to run almost every game, not just run, but run it and provide an acceptable gaming experience. And at this price point, that should be more than good enough. Talking about gaming, the audio via the rear-facing speakers quite good too, above average levels with no distortion. Audio via the 3.5mm headphone jack's quite decent as well. And with that, we get to battery life, but I did play that part for you guys already. So let's quickly skip ahead to the camera. The Redmi 3 has a 13 megapixel rear camera with an f/2.0 aperture, face detection autofocus, and a single LED flash. The shutter response is quite fast here, and the UI is similar to what we've seen many a time before from Xiaomi. The images shot with this camera though turned out to be surprisingly good. Decent levels of detail, good color reproduction, no issues with exposure or white balance. The dynamic range though is average. This camera can also shoot 1080p videos at 30 frames per second. The video quality was mediocre, light on the details, heavy on the software processing, but the frame rate at least was quite stable, making this footage kinda acceptable. Talking about acceptable, the 5 megapixel front camera, it has an aperture of f/2.2, produces again acceptable images. A little too soft, but good enough for the occasional selfie, good enough for social media. Overall, given the price, I feel Xiaomi's done a great job with the cameras here. Now, for that, let's get to the software. The Redmi 3 runs on MIUI 7 built on top of Android 5.1 Lollipop. Being MIUI, being a heavy interface, Xiaomi's managed to add a lot of features here. Well, yes, MIUI does bring a lot of functionality to the table. It is a very heavy interface, and given that Xiaomi is a relatively young brand, they take a long time to update Android versions. That's not to say Xiaomi doesn't update their phones. Bug fixes and new MIUI features are added almost every few weeks, but if it's the latest flavor of Android that you want on your phone, Xiaomi is not for you. Anyway, MIUI 7 on the Redmi 3 feels very responsive. Launching apps or jumping between apps feels fluid. MIUI doesn't have the best memory management, but at this price point, the Redmi 3 does manage to do better than almost all of its competition. I've seen worse user experiences on phones priced 3-4 times higher than this. So the Redmi 3 does punch well above its weight here. Now let's talk price. Xiaomi's priced the Redmi 3 at 699 Chinese yuan. That converts to roughly US dollars 110 or Indian rupees 7,000. Now, does this phone have its quirks? Absolutely yes. The far from stock experience, the hybrid slot, the sunlight legibility, non-removable battery, mediocre video performance, the locked bootloader. And yeah, I can talk about all that and more if the Redmi 3 was priced at above $200. But at this current price, the pros, the kind of performance that it brings to the table, that just outweighs the cons by a lot, making the Redmi 3 arguably the best phone in its segment. So, should you endure Xiaomi's flash sales, or if Xiaomi doesn't sell the Redmi 3 in your market, yet pay a little more to get it from a third-party reseller? My answer is a resounding yes. When I usually test low-end phones, sometimes I just can't wait to be done with the testing because the experience is too bad or something or the other kind of annoys me, but I enjoyed using the Redmi 3. I was running emulators on it. That's how much I liked using this phone, so I'd wholeheartedly recommend it. And for my Indian viewers, an updated version of the Redmi 3 might be hitting our shows soon. Xiaomi is supposed to be adding a fingerprint sensor to this. And if that rumor ends up being real, and knowing Xiaomi, they'd probably end up pricing it around 7,000, 7,500 rupees. If that ends up being the scenario, buy the Redmi 3. It would be a no-brainer. Anyway, guys, I guess that's it. That's what I feel about the Redmi 3. Is there something you feel I missed? Do you have a different perspective on it? Let me know your comments in the thoughts below. That's what I was about to say. Sorry about that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And yeah, I already asked you to comment. So if you have any video requests for me, hit me up on Twitter at C4eTech. That's where I'm most active these days. And if you do want to pick a Redmi 3 up, merrymobiles.com is the third-party reseller of choice, the one I would recommend. I'll leave a direct link in the description, and also one when it launches in India. So use these links if you do want to support the channel. And that's it. Thanks a lot for putting up with me watching this video. And till next time, this is Ash here from C4E Tech signing off. You guys have a great day. Bye bye now.